professor at the business school here at New York University Business School. So yes, I do bring sort of a very different perspective from, but it's interesting to sort of see the different perspectives here from, someone who has a location, sort of like, a platform that leverages location-based marketing, a platform for the real estate industry, government, and like, a company that is a heavy user of real estate. So this is sort of an interesting mix to start to give us perspective. I guess what I'm going to draw from is not just sort of my own research or my own experience, but also from sort of the wealth of research that is going on at NYU in the big data and analytics space. I've counted like over 50 of the professors across different schools who are sort of fairly deeply connected to either big data or analytics. We have this sort of school-wide initiative, the Center for Data Science, and it's just so that you guys know that there are there's sort of a tremendous interest within the university for like sort of pushing the frontiers of big data and analytics. So I thought I'd focus on really briefly. And whenever I say really briefly, I'm sort of lying shamelessly. But the privileges you have as a professor, you have a captive audience. But like I wanted to focus on the disruptive aspect that was sort of alluded to in the title of the of the panel, right? Which is and a lot of people have asked me, is big data disruptive? I mean, what industries is it disrupting? And to me, a signature of something that is disruptive is that is not that everybody is talking about it and it sort of seems central to everybody's business, but something that is disruptive is typically something that is on the fringes of your industry, something you haven't actually noticed, but people are using to sort of invent new ways of doing things, and you haven't noticed them yet because you're focused on your customers. You're focused on using big, and that's sort of what makes you profitable, because you're good at sort of sensing what your customers want and giving it to them. So when someone is sort of leveraging data to sort of do things completely differently, and perhaps starting to serve a much smaller market than the one that you're in, that's sort of where you need to sort of try and look out and see, like, is this going to disrupt me in the future? So I've got two quick examples. Because I see the location-based aspect of big data as having sort of value in two ways. There's I'm an economist by training, so whenever I sort of put up my fingers, I remember that there are like there are three kinds of economists. There are the kinds who can count and the kinds who can't. And I use big data to sort of compensate for sort of that I might have on that front. But it's about knowing where people are, but also trying to figure out who people are based on a pattern of where they've been. And I'll give you two examples. One, an example of a disruption that I start to see underway of an industry that is using knowledge of where people are is in urban transportation. And in some of the collaborative consumption, what I call the collaborative consumption companies that are using sort of mobile devices and marketplaces to be able to sort of reshape how you can call a taxi cab or how you can call a car and then get a ride. And this is disruptive because it's using location-based data. It's like taking advantage of the fact that you can now tell your phone, through your phone, tell someone exactly where you are. You don't have to actually be physically co-located with the cab in order to hail it. It's disruptive because it's still a very small fraction of the industry at this point, and it's sort of a fringe thing. But if you think about the potential of it, if you're in the urban transportation industry, you have to pay attention to it because these companies are going to have a tremendous amount of data about where people are, where they call taxis from, and where they go. And this is going to be sort of a really influential sort of data set moving forward. On the other front, trying to figure out who someone is based on where they are. And this is from the marketing. There's a company called Every Screen Media that has actually sort of come out of the research that people at NYU have done, which is sort of figuring out who you are based on your usage patterns across different devices. And the basic idea is that you have a mobile phone, you have an iPad, you have a laptop. And each of these is sort of different for someone who is targeting marketing at you. typically they've got a different IP address, or because there is a different device. But the location patterns of these devices for you provide a unique signature of who you are. I mean, who else apart from you will use a device in your office, perhaps in your apartment, and maybe there's one other place that you go to frequently in the park. And so if we see this signature of simple sort of a location pattern, there's another device that's being used in your office, in your apartment, and in the park, it's very likely that it's you. And so this is sort of an example of not leveraging the fact that I know where you are, but I'm leveraging the fact that I know who you are based on where you've been. Okay, so that sort of seems to be a good place to stop.